Hello. We are here today with somebody we actually met. We just discussed in New York City last year, which was really neat to be around all the adoptees. She has a book out called Who Am I? And this is Michelle Gavreau joining us from Connecticut. Welcome.
Thank
Hi,
you. Thank you for
Michelle.
having me.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Nice to see you
Thrilled to be
again.
here. It's nice
Guess
to
that
see you
was,
ladies.
yeah, about 7 months ago, 8 months
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
early in the year, February, I think.
February, I
Yeah.
believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was,
So,
tell the listeners what you were saying about that because I think it's, people who haven't found community yet. Maybe this
um,
is
so I had seen Reckoning with the Primal Wound, the film, and I was on the groups on Facebook and I wanted to be a part of it. And I knew when Rebecca was getting all of the screenings together, and I said, well, New York City would be it because it was closest to me. I said, I got to get there. And I had gone to a private writers conference in Washington, D.C. the week before. And was telling my friends down there who I'd met up a few years before that. I said, I have to go to this. I said, I need to feel what others are feeling and whatnot.
Mhm.
So a week after that, I hopped on the train and I came down and we had all met up for breakfast, I believe. Um, wow, there wasn't anything like it. Just to be sitting at the same
Right.
breakfast table with others, all adoptees, all in different situations.
Yeah, there's nothing
There are
like
no
it.
words. There are absolutely no words for it.
mm-hmm.
Um, so breakfast was breakfast, and we all kind of, we had a couple hours in between. So then we all met up at this studio, I believe it was.
Mhm.
Um, and then it started. There was a panel, the film, the songs. There was one song that absolutely brought me to tears.
Mhm.
And then Liz DeBetta's performance that brought every single emotion and feeling that I had, this is my skin, these are my bones, this is my hair, but who did I belong to?
Yeah.
Things like that. So
So powerful.
everything resonated with me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Um,
glad you're here today, and we're really excited to hear your story. So
Thank you.
tell us however you'd like to tell us.
Um, well, as we know, I wrote a book and it was called Who Am I?
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1969 in Canada on a reservation.
Mhm.
My birth mother was about to give birth to me in a car. I was feet first. I guess I wanted
Oh.
to hit the ground running a few weeks
Ah,
early. She obviously made it to a hospital, and I was born right there in the hospital. And but she couldn't keep me. My grandmother was basically forcing her to give me up, and my grandmother was already raising my brother that my mother was not raising,
Mhm.
which was
Okay.
unfortunate. I don't think she had the emotional capacity nor the financial capacity to raise children. She just wanted to go out and have a good time and not worry about the responsibilities. So, as much as it broke my birth mother's heart, she wanted a daughter, but she knew she had to give me up. But she didn't know where to start. Her roommate at the time knew somebody, was living here in Connecticut. It was another native man who came from the same reservation, but he was living here for iron work.
Oh.
So she called him and she said, there's a baby available. Are you interested? And I guess the conversation went, yep, I'll be up there the next day. Um, and
wait, she wanted to give him a, a
she wanted to find
A
a
native. Yeah.
family to give me to rather than giving me up to an orphanage or a Catholic services. And I'll get to that in a minute. I'll
okay,
get to
okay.
that. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
this
Yeah.
woman Gloria knew a family, and this man Tom Rice, my adoptive father, said yes, I'll take her. Um, he comes up, no questions asked. Basically, comes to the hospital and talks to Sharon, talks to my grandmother. Apparently, they knew each other. Um,
He was the native guy. This is where
yes,
I'm a little bit okay, okay,
that's okay.
okay, gotcha.
um, and my adoptive mother stayed behind in Connecticut to get the house ready. Um, I don't know what that conversation was like between them. I was never told about that conversation. I guess she couldn't have children, but I guess whatever it was at the time, they would take any child. So, you know, I guess
Was
it was
she native?
no.
Okay.
Okay.
So he goes up to Canada and he talks to Sharon, he talks to my grandmother, and they were okay with him taking me. He goes to social services. This is where documentation was falsified.
Mm-hmm.
He had me registered as his daughter. He had me put on, and this is the time where they didn't have to turn over records to the Canadian government. They had me put on their records that I was born in Manchester, Connecticut. No, I wasn't. I
Okay.
was born in Canada. It
Yeah.
was crazy. There's a whole chapter in my book all
And does,
about that.
Do
okay,
you
then not,
have, oh,
yeah.
so
I
I,
was just gonna say, does that take away your
Canadian citizenship?
belonging to the
Well,
to the
not necessarily.
reservation?
I still
Okay.
belong. I'm still native, right? I'm half native.
Right.
It didn't take my native,
No, but I mean like the
my bloodlines away. It just still had me at half native, but it
it
took
separates
away
you
my
though.
parents. Basically,
Right. Okay.
it
Yeah.
took away my birth family.
Did,
Right.
did they have an original birth certificate for you from
They
Canada?
had medical records that just said baby, Indian baby.
Oh,
Ah,
They didn't have my name.
nice.
They didn't have any other records at the hospital. When I get into that chapter, I
Mm-mm.
had to search.
mm.
And again, I'll get into that. That was a wild story. Um, so my father, he thought he knew what he was doing. He had me placed as his natural daughter. He was my natural father, and my adoptive mother was Leah. That she was my natural mother, and that I was born in Connecticut. So that was
This happened fast too. I mean, he had some quick
it
thinking.
did.
Yeah.
And I was able to get a social security number with that. I was able
Oh.
to get my license with that. It was just, my driver's license. That was a
Well, we
story
all,
too.
we all do have amended birth certificates. All adoptees have a fake birth certificate. So that's how
And
we do the thing.
this was a birth and baptismal certificate. This was not through the Canadian government when they didn't have to turn over
Oh,
records until the 1990s. And you
Mm,
would have thought this would have placed a red flag.
right.
No, it didn't. It never placed a red flag until I had a problem. So
gosh.
in any event, so fast forward a couple of years, my adoptive father died. I was just about to turn 3. He had lung cancer
Oh,
and he dies.
gosh.
And unfortunately, I was left with a white mother who did not know what to do with me.
I,
She did not know how to be a mother. She basically was unfortunately very depressed. She became a hoarder and
I,
basically became a hermit and kind of kept me hidden. She cut off
Oh my
all
gosh.
contact. She cut off all contact with everybody in his family, meaning she did not want my birth family to find me at
she,
all.
And
no, now you're just, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
this was
She
when you were 3, she
yeah.
started doing this?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Had she wanted to have, uh,
I don't
was
know
she
what
on
she
board
wanted.
with that, with adopting you?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think he was in such a hurry to have children. I think he wanted her to have something to do, you
Mm,
know, I think. Um, and I think she had some mental issues going on at the time. She did her best, but her best wasn't good enough.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was gonna
So
say
she was
maybe,
left with
maybe
me.
he saw,
Basically,
yeah.
she moved into another house. She became a hoarder for
Mm.
many, many years. We didn't have running water. She didn't have a
Oh
refrigerator. She had a hot
gosh.
plate to cook on. Um,
Michelle, that's so traumatic.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was. It was. Even she sent me to Catholic school. I had a hard time in Catholic school. In 6th grade, I refused to go back to school due to some issues there. And in public school, things got worse.
I'm sure.
And then come to find out, well, she had me live with other relatives at certain times. And then when I was 14, 15, she had me go live with an aunt and uncle who they didn't have any room or anything. I slept on a cot in their living room. My aunt, this was my uncle's 3rd wife, I think, Rita, or 2nd wife, I can't remember. She's the one that spilled the beans about my adoption.
Oh,
I never
You
knew.
you
I
did
never
not
knew.
know until you were 15 and sleeping on random relatives' cot in a living room.
Right, exactly. She decided you'll if you read my book and you'll
yeah.
see in how I found out the truth finally comes out. my Aunt Rita, she decided to take me out to dinner, and she decided to tell me a little story that there was once a little Indian baby that was born and had to be given up for adoption because her mommy could not take care of her because she had seven other babies to be taken care of. And I'm like, whoa. Talk about
Okay.
flooring me, so, and that wasn't the truth. She only had one other baby, and it was just, anyway, she didn't know the whole truth either at that time. So I confronted my mother at the time, my adoptive mother. Finally, she told me the truth, and she said, yes, you're adopted. There were no adoption papers. There was nothing except that birth certificate, that fake birth certificate. And
your father, the only person who really had the information, is no longer
he's
living.
no longer in the picture. No. And honestly, if he had lived, I would have known a lot sooner, because he had promised my birth mother I would be in the picture. I would be going back and forth to Canada. I would be going back to New York, because he was an iron worker. He helped build the World Trade Center. He helped build Hartford buildings, things like that. So there's such a story with him. And so anyway, fast forward, I became so angry, and I was already angry as it was, because I could never have friends over. I could never
I was gonna
go out. I
say,
could never do anything unless it was under her hand. There was a lot of abuse going on too, emotional, physical,
I'm
things like that.
sorry.
And there you are alone with somebody. Yeah, it just sounds so traumatic.
So I finally forced my hand with my mother, Leah, and I said to her, I need to go find them. I want to know. Do you know their names? She's like, you're not going. You're not going until you're 18. You can't go. You want bet?
Yeah.
I was 15. I was ready. And finally again, I wrote everything in my book. Finally, she relented.
For our listeners, though. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ready,
Finally, she relented, and she let me go to Canada alone at 15 on a
Wow.
bus for 9 hours. So I got up there and I met my family, and they were so thrilled to meet me. My grandmother, she came running up to me at the bus station with her arms wide open. She didn't know what had happened to me. She knew my father had died. My adoptive father had died. But they didn't know what happened to me.
I was gonna say, because they knew him when they placed you.
Yes.
So hearing the news of his death, I'm sure they're like, what happened to this
Exactly.
child
What
that we
happened
thought
to
we
her?
were
Are we ever going to see
giving?
her again? So they were so thrilled when I made that first initial call a couple months before, because I was going to find them no matter what. So I called them. They were thrilled to hear me. They were thrilled to hear my voice. They were thrilled to see me. And my birth mother was thrilled to know who I was, and see me.
Michelle, did you have any of your Native American roots told you as a child, or nothing because your father, maybe when you were really little, but
Not
when
really.
No.
Not really. My mother really kind of she didn't really share much with me. After I found out I was adopted, I asked her to take me up there, and she said, I'll never go there again. So
had your adoptive father, what had he been adopted, or
no.
no? So he wasn't in any sort of assimilation type of situation. Okay.
No. He did adopt other children. He also had a biological child too, who I'm in contact with. He adopted another boy who passed away a couple years ago. I found I have 5 other siblings, all of whom I've never grown up with.
Wow.
It's just wow. So I met my birth family. They open arms. I've been in reunion for the last 40 years, off and on, here and there. Great relationships with some, others not. It is what it is. Especially with my birth mother. That's the part. It is what it is today.
Did she ever get her life together in terms of?
Yes and no. She lived how she wanted to, basically, and my brother the same way. My brother with her same way. It was how he wanted to. And they both lived kind of hard lives.
Yeah.
They're still alive. I still hear stories. I still hear things about them, but I'm very close with my aunts. I'm very close with a couple of my cousins there. I do go back. As a matter of fact, I'm going back in October to Canada for Canadian Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I love cooking with them. I love playing darts in the middle of the night. We do that, and it's a lot of fun.
did
I
your
did meet my birth
grandmother?
father in 1999.
Oh,
I
okay.
met him for just a couple of days. He made all these promises and whatnot. And I'm like, uh-huh. I knew he was just kind of a player, but whatever. I just needed to see the face to the man who helped make me.
He
And boy,
was, and you said he was white, correct?
yes, he's English and Scottish. He was kind of like, I look a lot more like him than I do my birth mother.
Hmm.
My birth mother is beautiful. I mean, she has the native features. She's just simply beautiful. And him, I'm looking into a mirror,
Uh,
really.
well, you're beautiful too.
Oh, thank you.
No,
Um,
And you
you know,
didn't continue on a relationship with him?
no, she didn't. No, as a matter
No,
of fact,
you
when
didn't. I'm
he
saying
didn't.
after,
No,
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 you
we
don't.
did not. No, no. What happened there? Another chapter. What happened there? I had been looking for him forever. Really, it bothered me forever. And my grandmother knew it bothered me. And matter of fact, she wrote me a letter. I have it saying
oh,
somewhere.
that's what I was going to ask you while you're looking for that. She didn't. She's gone now.
She's gone.
Okay.
I was 18 and she wrote me a letter and she says, I know it bothers you to think about your father, think about your birth father. She says, don't look for him. I don't want you to get hurt all over again. Boy, was she right.
Yeah.
But still it bothered me. I was like, I just have to meet him. I just need to know who he is.
I think even just that, even
Yes.
even if it's not going to turn into anything, just to have that face to face and to
And I
know
got that.
is
So,
important,
and I got that for sure. So I met him in 99. I met him at my birth mother's house.
Oh,
Yeah, she allowed it to happen. And she was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, have him come on over. And he did. He lived in the next town over for all those years. Um, and so he comes over, and wow, what a meeting. And like I said, I just looked at him and I'm like, holy, it's a mirror,
yeah.
And he came over all 3 days of that weekend, making all these promises. And he said to me at the end, he said, I need you to write my wife a letter. And I'm like, what? Why?
Can you not? How old are you? 18?
At that point I was 30.
Oh, 30. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
so that you could tell her about you.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
shoulder the
did.
so
responsibility
I
on
was
the
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
the
innocent
He wanted
heck?
to lay
party.
that responsibility on me so he
Yeah.
could freak out and say, I didn't know she was going to do that, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. So he made me out to be the monster and whatnot. But you know what? I got what I wanted. So at that point, she went nuts. She went nuts, so anyway.
People. Did he have other children? So do you have
Yeah, he had
siblings
two
for
other
him?
girls. Basically, he kind of made me out to be the monster. He said I forced him to meet me, and I'm like,
oh my.
no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
You're a grown
I'm
man.
sure anybody who really knows him probably sees
Oh,
that piece of
100%,
it, right?
a
I mean,
100%. And I wrote about it in the book. And you know what I did after the book was published? It was kind of funny. I did send them a copy of the book.
Oh, you did.
Oh, I did. Here you go.
Are
so
you in touch with the sisters?
No,
Oh,
no, they wanted nothing to do with me. And I know it had to do with their mother, which I understand. It's fine. But they know. They know.
yeah.
um and so I'm curious, you go at 15, you meet your whole family. There's your adoptive mother back,
Mm.
obviously in thick in mental illness. Where did that relationship go?
It got worse.
Oh, it
Hmm.
did.
It got worse. She didn't want me to come back, but she sent me a ticket. I go home and she's sitting in her car smoking a cigarette, and I see her and I'm exhausted, right? We grab a bite to eat, I guess. And she says, oh, I did something to your bedroom. And I'm thinking, oh, good.
Oh,
Maybe she painted it or something. There were holes in the walls. There were
Oh
critters all over the place.
gosh.
It was awful. I mean, this place reeked. I was like, oh, maybe she did something nice by me. No, She filled my room with her stuff and she wanted me out that night. She was putting me in foster care.
Oh my
Yeah, so I
gosh.
And
landed in
you're
foster care.
15.
So at 15,
Jeez.
so what I did that night when we came home, she had me open up the door and, oh, I want you out. I I kind of had, I was like, I was crying, I was hysterical, and I'm like, I'm tired. And I had a relationship with a guy on the reservation for a couple times, you know. I said,
Mhm.
Mom, you can't throw me out. I I might be pregnant. Okay, fine. I didn't want to leave, So I stayed a couple extra months. Turned out I wasn't pregnant, and then she had started a fight around Thanksgiving again, and she came after me with a belt.
Oh,
She went out, she called the police, she had the police come by, and she had me come outside. She actually pushed me outside and she said, I don't want her here. And the cop was like on my side. He said, Mrs. Rice, let's calm this down. You did come after her. Why don't we let this calm down? Between parents and teens, things happen. He said, why don't we go inside? Because he wanted to check the place out.
right.
And she said no. She wouldn't let him in because she knew. And she
Did he
threatened to
call
murder.
CPS?
At that time, there was, you're talking the 1980s. I mean, it's
Right,
not
yeah.
like it is today.
Yeah.
So she threatened to murder me right in front of him.
What
So
and
he
what's he
looks at
done?
me, he says, why don't you go in, get a couple of things? She didn't want me in the house. So he had to take me like I was in my pajamas down to the police station. I had to go to a local shelter at the time for a couple of weeks. I had bruises. I actually
Oh,
had a burn mark on my arm. Um,
Shaw.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then it took them a few weeks to find me a foster home in the same town I was in because I'm still in high school, right? I really didn't want to leave the high school, although thinking back, oh, I probably should have. um, but more goes on with that. So they finally found me a foster home within the same town. Well, that didn't turn out to be the greatest foster home either. I stayed there
Mm.
for about 7 months, and then I left. I went to a group home after that,
Mm,
which was much better. Although at the time, being a teenager, you're not really grateful for structure. Right. I had
right.
absolutely no structure growing up. So all of a sudden now they want to lay down the structure on me. Oh, I was a little rebellious, but I stayed. I graduated high school. I ended up going out on my own at 19, and
So you aged out of foster care.
I
Was there,
aged, well,
did
I
they,
didn't have to age out, but I chose to because I just didn't want authority. I was not a fan of authority,
Mm,
so but I did pretty well. I mean, I made a few mistakes here and there. But at 21, I met my husband and here we are 33 years later.
isn't
I
Um,
am
that's
I'm just
amazing?
blown away that you are a functioning
Yeah.
it
person that,
it's not easy still today. I still
right.
have
Of
I have some issues in my
course.
head.
Of
Of
course. My
course. So you
goodness.
had nobody to protect you.
I had
Nobody.
no one. I
No
really didn't. Even
protection. And
DCF
yeah,
did their bit. I had a really good social worker. She was wonderful and she did her part and she always checked up on me.
That's
I,
good to
I
hear.
still am in contact with some of the workers that were at that same group home.
That's what I was
Um,
going to ask you. That sounded like where you got your one thing,
I
even
did.
if,
I
hmm
did. Even though I wasn't grateful then, I am now.
yeah.
And if it weren't for my husband and my son, who is 31 today and an attorney, he went to
Oh,
law school. I think I
happy
did something
birthday.
right there.
Yes, you did.
Um,
well, you sounds like you have incredible strength and
Yes.
resilience and courage and
I tried.
tenacity. So
I try. I
Mhm.
think I was always very stubborn, and I, I don't know where it came from. I think, I'm still healing. After I wrote my book, though, I had to relive a lot
mm,
Yeah.
and I needed a little therapy.
I was going to ask you if that was hard for you to put down on paper, these
Oh,
things. Yeah.
it was. Sometimes I relive the nightmares too. Sometimes I wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I go, oh God. And I think in my head, okay, stop it. She's gone now, you know?
did
Mhm.
she die? Like what? So
Yeah.
what happened?
So
Even after you went into the group home and you got out and you married your husband, was there any
she was still
contact?
in my life. Leah, my adoptive mother, was still in my life. And somehow, as I became an adult, she still kind of had her hand over me. Even when I got married, she still had her hand over me. When I had my wedding, I had a very small wedding, and she didn't want anybody there, or otherwise she wasn't going to pay for the big dinner, you know, or something like that. So my birth family couldn't come. My foster parents, I had beautiful foster parents who would take me. All right, I'm going to talk to you about something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I had foster parents. This is how I got my native identity back. I have foster parents in Connecticut that could only take me on weekends and during the summers, right? I needed the structure in the group home, so this is how they got involved. They used to run the Connecticut River Powwow Society, and we used to have powwows here in Connecticut. So they would take me to these powwows, and they would have me dance and meet many other natives that came from across the country. So this is how I've gotten some of my identity back.
You know, when you
They're just
said, when
wonderful people.
Sarah
So I
said you
call them
leave,
mom and dad.
Wait, she's finishing.
I call them mom and dad, and I'm still in touch with them today. They're still mom and dad to me. And they have met my birth family this summer, actually. They never met until this year. So I kind of call that a incredible moment.
Mhm.
But yeah, so these are wonderful people, and I call them my parents. Anyway, I'm going to go back to Leah. Leah always stayed in my life, she wasn't a positive person. She always thought I was doing something against her. I would live in a town a half hour away, and she would think I was coming to her house to steal. And she would go to the police and say I was in her house, and I would get a call every once in a while from the police. Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Hi. Have you been to her house? No, you know that. No. Towards the end, about 5 years towards the end, I had to get involved. The state asked me to become a conservator for her. I did not want to be her conservator, but the rest of her family didn't bother stepping up. Her
So
own
she
brother,
was obviously deeply mentally ill and
very mentally ill,
nobody ever, no diagnoses and no help ever.
was worried about her. Her own doctor wanted to get her admitted into a home, and she didn't want it right away. And then her own doctor said to me, called me and said, once you get those conservator papers, you have the right to admit her. About a year later, she ended up getting really, really sick in her home. She had terrible wounds in her legs. That was it. So, okay, I admitted her, got her in. Whew, that was rough. She hated me. She hated me. I was the terrible daughter, you know, always was, always will be. And so we got her in a nursing home. After that, I had the task of cleaning out her house. It took me 5 years to clean out her
Oh my
house because I could
gosh.
not keep going back. There was mold, there were holes in the walls. It was a nightmare. And I was getting sick every time I left that house. I was sick for 3 days from the mold with migraines, nausea. There was no bathroom. I couldn't even go to the bathroom there, you know. Um,
Gosh.
I found the
Mm.
strap that she used to use on me. I couldn't go back there for almost a year because I found that there.
Oh,
I
Michelle,
have
this is so.
pictures.
Mm.
I have pictures of everything that I tucked away on an external hard drive that I'll probably never ever plug in again. Um,
Mm.
I thought about putting those in the book, but I can't, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, she died in 2006. I spent the last 4 days with her. They wanted to send her out to the hospital for
Hospice.
yeah, and I said no, no, or treatment. She had pneumonia. They wanted to send her out for treatment, and I looked at her. She was screaming at the walls at that point, and I looked at the nurse. I said, "Are you kidding me? No, this is no quality of life. Let her go.
Mm-mm.
Give her the morphine now." So I waited till she took her last breath. I laid in the next bed with her, and I got told after that, "You were the daughter she didn't deserve,"
Mhm.
and it was true. Oh, sorry.
Amazing that you kept
Whew.
kept in touch with her and didn't, it seems
I
like
didn't
a
really, I mean, I don't even really think she knew what I was saying to her. You know, I think she was angry with her own self for things. She used to blame me for a lot of things in her own life. I don't know why. Um, it was, it was rough with her. But in the end, I told her it was okay to go. I talked to her. I forgave her.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you did what you thought you knew you knew how to do. You couldn't, she knew she could do better, but she didn't want to. She chose not to. But I forgave her for that, you know, just like I need to forgive my birth mother now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I don't talk to her.
Well,
She's doing what she needs to do, and I have to forgive her for that too.
the forgiveness is for ourselves, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I have to do that
What?
for myself. And I think that's where a lot of my strength comes in too.
Yeah.
If I had chosen the other path, I don't know that I'd be sitting here today.
And right, it seems like a sort of a if perfect storm of things happening that sort of saved you, right? And
Oh, very
I
much
mean,
so.
just because it really, given your background, could have gone in
Mhm.
a completely different direction, and
100%.
so often does with.
You know what I want
Uh,
to do is I want to go out there and say, I want to save everybody that is taking that other path and go, no, 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 come here, come here. Let me hug you. It's okay. It's okay. Come here. Um,
mm,
I
that's what
wanted to say
I
about your
want to do that.
strength. I think it's from your people. I mean, I think that you have
Oh,
strong people in your genetic memory
absolutely. I
from your
believe that.
grandmother through.
My
And
ancestors. I think we're
that's
all
right.
strong in my family. I really do. You know, I've talked to my aunts about things. I've talked to my cousin Lana. Oh, my cousin Lana has been like my rock.
Mm.
um, I hope she sees this. I'm going to send this to her.
Michelle,
uh,
this is so I can't grasp.
No,
We've all been through stuff, but this is just
no.
extraordinarily brutal.
it
Yes.
was
Just
brutal. And
brutal and alone with this woman who you have zero,
Ugh,
really,
nothing.
who, and I mean, I really, I'm in such deep admiration of you.
thank you.
And I'm so happy you wrote your book.
Me too.
As
My
painful as it was, how important to get this out there.
It
And
is. It is. And I want other people to see the strength that I have. And maybe I can put that on them too, to see that they've got strength that they can pull up from their stomachs,
mhm.
Mhm.
and their hearts, and say, all right, I can do this. I can maybe forgive, and I can move on, and I can do what I want to do, with this. Even my own adoptive family here, I have no relationship with them. They knew I wrote a book, not one
Mhm.
peep, not one word. I was like, come
And
on,
at
come
the
on.
end of the day, what is such a tenuous connection anyway, right? At best.
I mean, just to know you're in peril when you're a child and not come and
Right.
help in that situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
Not one of them
Ugh.
stepped up to see where I am, or even just to see her. Basically, after she died, I did hear, like, oh, Aunt Leah said that we could have this. And I'm like, you're not going in that house.
Mhm.
I worked for
Mm.
that. No.
No, no, no.
Gosh.
Oh man, it was just amazing. And I ended up having an eBay career out of her house, because that's what she
Oh,
would do. She would go to flea markets and tag sales and just buy all this junk, valuable stuff too.
It's the
And
least she could do for you.
really, really, you could have left the money in the bank, ma.
mm. And
But
it's
no,
just
this is what
thrown
she
in this
did.
house. Yeah.
Ugh.
She became a Avon representative. I think everything she had, I probably could have put it in the Smithsonian if it were clean. I don't even want to think about it. Um, I should send pictures.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
wild, wild in
Ah.
there.
Horrible.
If my father had lived, it, if my adoptive father had lived, I don't think anything of this sort would have been imaginable. You
No.
know, I
Mm,
don't, I don't think anything like this would have been there. Life would have been so different. I would have known my
Mhm.
birth mother way before. I would have known my
mhm.
family way before. Um, I would have known my identity.
Yeah, your
But I'm
identity.
glad that I have it back now. Like I have well, I'm still learning. I'm still learning about my identity. I'm still learning about my people and our traditions, because you know what? A lot of our traditions are lost.
Yeah,
culture
Right.
we are.
is
That's the
lost.
other tragedy in
It
Yeah.
this
is.
story
Um,
is all the horrific acts perpetuated on.
It's awful. And when I was born in 1969, that was called the baby scoop era up there.
Mhm.
And a lot of Native babies were being taken
Right.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
to residential schools. And I don't know if you've heard about the horrific
Yes.
stories.
Yes, we have.
Over 10,000 children now are being
Yes.
found in unidentified graves.
All the graves. The
I'm
mass
thinking I
graves.
traded one evil for another, maybe. I could have gone to one of those orphanages or residential schools. Although where I'm from, we're right outside of Montreal, and I'm told that only a few happened there. They didn't want the publicity there.
Oh.
But I still think I probably could have ended up somewhere. But yeah, it's horrific to think about. And my heart goes to all those families,
Yeah.
all those
Oh, yeah.
babies.
Mm.
You
It's
know,
horrible.
it is. It absolutely is. I mean, there's no reason for that. There
No.
really wasn't. There was no reason to try and annihilate another culture. And
No.
they're still trying to do it
They're
today,
still, I was
Right.
going to
all
say,
over
they're
the
Of
still
world.
course.
trying.
And yes.
So,
Boy, Michelle,
but
this is really, I had no
No.
idea what to expect. And
well,
your book is on our list. So
Yes.
I'm glad.
but
And I'm working on another book, and I had therapy throughout the years. The best therapy I had was about deep breathing and through my culture. And it's all about imagery. And I've worked with imagery, um, animals, and nature and whatnot. And all of our animals in nature, they have messages.
Yes.
Sometimes when I look at something or I focus and I do some deep breathing when I had some stress, um, sometimes there's a message there, and it's just like, you see the leaves blowing or something, there's a message in there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that song, the
Yeah.
answer's blowing in the winds. Or sometimes I'll see a hawk and, oh, fly high. Or a skunk, that's reputation right there.
Right. That's reputation.
Or even a squirrel or something. It's all right, flick that tail. That's where I kind of get my strength. I kind of have to look at nature and go, yeah, it's all good.
That's
And then
beautiful.
I just go with it now. I don't overthink things like I used to. I used to overthink so much, and I just didn't go for it. Now I just go for it.
yeah.
Is your second
So
book? Is your
my
second
second
book?
book is going to be
Yeah.
about the imagery, healing, and deep
Okay,
Oh,
I
breathing.
that's
wonder.
great. That'll be very
It will be, and I'm hoping in about another year it'll be out.
okay.
I also have a
That'll
third book in the works too, so I go back and forth.
good for you. I'm glad you're so prolific.
Yes.
Oh,
Me
I love it.
too.
Yeah, I like writing. So you never know. I just turned 55, so
Happy
maybe I
birthday.
have another few books in the works. We'll see.
Yes, a long life ahead still. And I'm
Oh,
glad for your husband and your son.
thank you. They are my
Well,
rocks.
well deserved.
They are my
Yeah.
rocks for sure. And my son and I, we work together too. So
Oh, you do?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So we're excited.
Oh,
But well,
thank
thank
you,
you for
Michelle. I'm
having me.
really
Gosh, so
touched and
touched.
moved.
Yeah.
You know
Was
what?
not
I think
expecting that.
we can all be grateful for being here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, that's why, that's why I wrote this, because I am grateful.
I think this is going to help a lot of people too, because we don't know who's suffering in silence. That's the thing.
There's so
The
many. I
silent.
know there are.
Yeah.
I know there
Mhm.
are.
Boy, we got a bunch of after we were on NPR
Oh, you
recently
were? Oh, wow.
and we so many emails after, but there was one in particular that
Yeah.
stuck out, and it was a guy in the hospital with his adoptive father, and he just
Mm.
happened to hear 1A on
Mm,
the hospital, and he's like, I just had to write. I'm emotional hearing this. I don't want to talk publicly, but I just needed to spill this out, and and
mhm,
so you
mhm.
just do never know how far the reach is and who needs to
Oh,
hear it at the right moment. So,
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. How
Yeah.
wonderful is that? That's great.
mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Cool.
thank
So,
you.
Oh,
well,
Gosh,
thank you
thank
thank
you.
for
you.
having
And
me. This is wonderful. And I can't wait to see you ladies again.
I
I
know we
know,
can't.
well, we'll,
We'll
we'll,
get there.
we'll keep you informed of events that we have in the works.
Yeah,
So,
please do. I'd love to come and see you.
yeah, we'd
Okay.
love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Take
Okay,
care.
take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.